Batman, on a level, you could be the greatest individual in football.
The YouTube channel is finally here. Statman Bains finally has his own YouTube channel. Who would have thought? A year in the making of making videos with rants, Saeed, Sarcasm City with Flawless. But today is my own platform. And what better way to start it with the Euros coming up than my England starting 11? Because I've seen plenty of people do it. We've seen pundits do it. And let's be honest, no one really cares what the pundits think. You're here to see what Statman Bains thinks, let's be honest. In goal, for me, there can only be one choice. As much as I rate Dean Henderson, his lack of experience in international football, he only has one international cap, I think he is. People need to remember that. And going into the international tournament with all the pressure on, you have to go with Jayden Pickford. I know people are going to be like, oh, it's Jayden Pickford. And I'll be honest, I don't really rate Jayden Pickford like that. He makes, for me, the hard things, the easy things look hard. And I hear that. But going into the international tournament, everyone's going to be watching you. The entire country is going to be watching you. The pressure on a goalkeeper is immense. And we've seen it with Dean Henderson. The last couple of games for Manchester United, he hasn't been the best. Europa League final, he didn't start. He hasn't really started a high magnitude games for us. So for me, you can only really go with Jayden Pickford in this international tournament. And I know I'm not the biggest Jayden Pickford fan. But even then, if we're looking at form towards the end of the season, he did end the season all right. And I always say with goalkeepers, when people are not talking about goalkeepers, they're doing all right. And Jayden Pickford towards the end of the season, was anyone really talking about him like that? The answer is no. So he must have been doing all right. Error-free, perfect. And I think just his experience in international football, he's actually very, very good with the ball on his feet. I don't think Dean Henderson is as good. Sam Johnston, I don't think he is as good, but people need to remember the guys playing for West Brom. You're not really asked to play out from the back under Sam Allardyce's side. Dean Henderson last year, Sheffield United, Chris Wilder is more Route 1 football, long ball football. So that's why you have to go with Jayden Pickford for me in goal. Right back, all the debates, that's where all the debates been. Southgate, yeah, say what you want. He's taken 4 right backs. Trent's pulled out, which is, for me, I said this, in my 23-man squad, I did not have Trent, but in a 26-man squad, it was criminal not to take Trent. And Southgate made the right decision taking him. Injury, very, very unlucky. But for me, for right back, he needs to go with this man right here, Reece James, Champions League winner. Chelsea fans are going to be happy when me saying that. But Champions League winner, Reece James. For me, if we're looking at, let's compare him to Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker, let's be honest, defensively, he relies a lot on his pace. Defensively, for me, he's not as secure as someone like Reece James. One thing I would say about people saying, oh, Reece James, he plays in the back three for Chelsea. His defensive numbers, even though he plays in the back three, are fairly decent. And when you watch Reece James on the eye, does he really get beaten that often? No. And he's still a young fullback. For me, Kyle Walker, heavily reliant on his pace. Going forward, I think Reece James is better. Look at the crosses per 90 right here. 3.79 crosses per 90. 75.5% dribbles completed. This is a very competent right back. On the ball, he's very, very good. So for me, you have to start Reece James. If you're building towards the future, which Southgate seems to like, all this youth that he talks about, you start Reece James. And for me, is there much difference between Reece James and Kyle Walker? You could argue the answer is no. So you go with a younger man, in my opinion, and that's Reece James. A centre-back. This is a very, very interesting position. For me, this man, if he's fit, he starts. You definitely start Harry Maguire if he's fit. For me, the issue is Harry Maguire, he hasn't got that match fitness now. And we've seen it with the other day with Jayden Henderson playing against Romania. Jayden Henderson looked absolutely horrific, let's be honest, yeah. I'll be honest, I'm not Jayden Henderson's biggest fan, but he was not great. Harry Maguire, the only reason I say you have to take the risk with him is because let's look at the other centre-back options. Tyrone Mings, everyone knows he's only in the squad because he's left-footed. He's not better than someone like Konsa. Incredible that Southgate didn't see that. They didn't take Konsa or even a Tomori. But let's move on from that. Connor Cody for me in a back three looks decent enough. He's decent on the ball. But in the back two, is a bit of an iffy one for me. Ben White's probably, for me, will probably be the third choice centre-back if Harry Maguire's not fit. Because Ben White, the other day against Romania, he looked all right. On the ball, he's decent. But even then, like, he's nothing special, let's be honest. But I think Southgate did make the right decision taking Ben White, because I think Harry Maguire is a doubt for the Euros. Jordan Henderson's clearly not match fit. He looks a bit rusty, and Ben White's a player that can play both positions. So it's wise from Southgate to take Harry Maguire. And I think Harry Maguire, as I was saying, if Harry Maguire is not fit, for me, England have to go to a back three straight away. That means Kyle Walker, right centre back. I'll probably go with Ben White and John Stones. The only reason I say you have to go to a back three, because for me, Harry Maguire, people criticize him a lot, but he's not as bad as people say. And for me, the next option besides Harry Maguire is a massive, massive downgrade. That's why you have to go with Harry Maguire, in my opinion, or you have to go with back three if he doesn't play. And I think Harry Maguire, even for England, he does seem to do decently well. I know mostly he's in a back three. In the World Cup, he had a very, very, very good tournament. Him alongside this man right here, John Stones, they were scoring goals for fun, if you guys can remember. And I think John Stones will have to be the centre-back partnership next to him. And I think it's a decent partnership, because John Stones, I wouldn't say he's rapid, but he does cover ground very good, very good. And you look at Harry Maguire in the previous little thing going down at the bottom. Harry Maguire only wins 52% of his ground duels. Compared that to John Stones, he wins 75%. So straight away, you can see John Stones makes up for Harry Maguire's deficiencies on the ground. And I think even John Stones, I'm not his biggest fan, but he's done very, very well for Manchester City. And I think playing next to someone like Ruben Dias, who is a leader, and let's be honest, as much as we criticize Harry Maguire's leadership and stuff, maybe he shouldn't be captain for Manchester United, but he's a bit more vocal than a lot of players in this side. So that's why you have to go with John Stones. And just touching on the leadership point, as much as people don't like to say it, Jordan Pickford is a low-key, a bit of a leader. You can see he has that bit of arrogance about him. He does communicate decently well. So that's another reason that you go with Jordan Pickford in goal. At left back, this was a difficult position for me to choose, because as much as Luke Shaw has been playing very, very well, Ben Chilwell did end the season in the better run of form. But still, I'm going to go with the Manchester United man, Luke Shaw. For me, Luke Shaw, he's had a bit of a he's had a very good season for his standards, but I think his season has come in patches. The start of the season for me wasn't brilliant. I wouldn't say he was shocking either, but at the end of the season, he really, really let himself down. But in the middle patch of the season, he was brilliant. The only reason I play him over someone like Ben Chilwell, if we're looking at Ben Chilwell, when Thomas Tuchel first came in, Marcus Alonso was playing. And he's also playing in a back three. I think defensively, if I'm looking at it, Luke Shaw's a bit more defensively secure than someone like Ben Chilwell. And I'm not saying Ben Chilwell is a bad player, because you're a Champions League winner. You can do what you want. But Luke Shaw defensively is a bit more secure. I do think, even if we're looking at that athleticism side of it, Luke Shaw, as much as he may be fat, he's not as bad going up and down as people think, which has improved massively this season, because we have said it in previous seasons where Luke Shaw does not get past the halfway line. Maybe it was a mental barrier. Looks like it. But this season, he was getting to the byline a lot more, which is encouraging stuff. 4-2-3-1. And in the pivot, it has to be Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice is probably most guaranteed midfielder to start. I think there's no really complaints about it. And just touching on the double pivot partnership, let me just get the next man in straight away. Jude Bellingham. Yes. I will start Jude Bellingham. Hear me out now, because I know everyone's going to go crazy. You're starting a 17-year-old in the Euros. It's a big risk. Yes, I know it's a massive risk starting someone like Jude Bellingham in the Euros. But one thing I would say, this guy's done it in the Champions League now. People forget, Manchester City, he was one of Borussia Dortmund's better players. Jude Bellingham performed at the highest stage, and now he's an English player going abroad, and he's done very, very well. And not many English players go abroad. We've seen it a lot more in recent years, but overall, it hasn't really happened in the past years. And I think Jude Bellingham, you watch him play, he's so mature. And we saw this double pivot partnership the other day against Austria. It works fairly well, if you ask me. And I think one thing I will say about it, people are like, oh, let's let Declan Rice hold and have Mason Mount or Phil Foden as 2-8s kind of thing. I do hear that. And I do think potentially it could work with Jude Bellingham stats now at the bottom. But my only thing is, if you look at West Ham, how do they play? They play with Declan Rice and Thomas Souček, two in the double pivot. Now you're telling where you have more defensive friends, kind of like, someone there to help you kind of thing. And if you're asking Declan Rice at the international stage, at the biggest tournament or second biggest tournament behind the World Cup, to hold the midfield by himself where he hasn't really done it, that's a massive risk for me. And I think if you're looking at Jude Bellingham, what does he do that someone like Jordan Henderson doesn't do? For me, Jude Bellingham straight away, you can see it, 23.02 pressures per 90, energetic. And when you're looking at someone like Declan Rice, the midfield partnership, does Declan Rice offer unbelievable mobility compared to someone like a Wilfred Ndidi in that DM role? The answer is no. So Jude Bellingham does make up and does cover a lot of ground to help that. And you're looking at it right there. 1.3 passes into the penalty area. If you're starting someone like Jordan Henderson, you're not going to get unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, Jordan Henderson's a decent ball progressor, but he's nothing more than that. Jude Bellingham, for me, at 17, he's going to be the real deal, and he's shown it. 0.1 expected assists per 90. That's very, very good for a central midfielder. As I always say, if we're looking at Bruno's first season for Manchester United, I think he's expected assist numbers. Remember, Bruno Fernandes is at number 10 with 0.20 expected assists per 90. And Jude Bellingham's doing that from a bit deeper in the Borussia Dortmund side. So for me, it's simple. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And Jude Bellingham for me is good enough, and he's proven it for Borussia Dortmund side. For me, Manchester United's winger, hopefully this summer, Jayden Sancho. I don't know why people are complaining. I don't know how people don't have him in the starting 11 for England. But Jayden Sancho, for me, is one of England's first choices on the name sheet. This season, 8 goals, 11 assists in the league. Ridiculous. And this guy's still very, very young. And people are going to be like, okay, Jayden Sancho, Statman, why do you have Jayden Sancho on the left instead of the right? Look at this right here. This is Jayden Sancho's average position or heat map for Borussia Dortmund this year in the league. And you can see most of his football does come from the left-hand side. And you look at Jayden Sancho. What is he? Jayden Sancho is he's a right-footed winger. He's going to be, I always say, modern-day wingers want to come onto the stronger foot. And when you have Luke Shaw on the left-hand side overlapping, Jayden Sancho coming inside is the better option. And even when he plays on the right-hand side, he always comes inside. And you saw that in the England game the other day against Romania. His main shot or his biggest moment in the game came from when he was drifting towards the left-hand side and he cut in onto his right foot and had a shot where I think he hit the crossbar, I think he was. So for me, you start Jayden Sancho on the left and everyone's going to be like Rashford, Sterling. I hear that Rashford, for me, we're still carrying an injury. He hasn't been on the best run of form. I think he ended the season with 1 goal in his last 10 games for Manchester United, which ain't the best for how high, let's be honest, Marcus Rashford probably sets his own standards because he's a brilliant footballer. But I think coming into international football, when the game is going to be a bit slower, you rather have Jayden Sancho, a bit more technical. He's just brilliant. Oh yeah, and I forgot to put his stats down at the bottom. Look at it straight away: 5.6 shot creating action per 90, 61.63 carries per 90. He is ridiculous. 2.27 crosses per 90 as well. So when you have someone like Harry Kane up top, which, let's be honest, everyone's going to start Harry Kane up top, he is another option. And you look at Jayden Sancho, I think he's 7.17 dribbles per 90 as well, which is a ridiculous amount. And for me, it's incredible that people are doubting his talent. And I think most of it just comes from the English media. He plays in the Bundesliga, he plays in Germany, and people have not watched Jayden Sancho enough. But this guy, for me, is a brilliant, brilliant talent. He's still going to develop, even if it might be under Oli, which could be a bit of a sticky situation, as we know. But he's a brilliant, brilliant player. And for me, he has to start. The next person, I think this is probably England's favourite player right now. One of my favourite players to watch right now in world football, that's how high I rate him. In the number 10 role, it has to be this man right here, Jack Grealish. Let's be honest, what can this guy not do? The answer is nothing. He's that good. I think you saw it the last couple of games for England. He has been the main guy. Against Romania, man of the match. Against Austria, for me, he was my man of the match. I know Bukayo Saka got it, but he was that good. And people say this. People need to remember, this is a Jack Grealish that is coming back from injuries. And he's doing this right now straight away. And you're looking at, just look at the last international tournament for England. Yeah, people say, oh, we need the runners. Fine. England had the runners with the Rashfords and Sterlings last year, but did they have someone that can hold the ball? Did they have someone in international football that can win you a foul when the other teams like pressuring you and stuff? The answer was no. And Jack Grealish has that. I think from last season in the league, no player has won more fouls than him in the top 5 leagues. His ability to win fouls, and we know we got someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, who's leaped the other day against Austria, was incredible. We have aerial threat, Harry Maguire, John Stones. So you do think Jack Grealish is a valuable asset to have. And you're looking at it straight away, 3.83 dribbles per game or per 90, 6.18 shot creating actions. His creative output is ridiculous. The next man for me, as I always say, I love my wingers that cut inside. This man right here, Phil Foden. He's ripped it up this year. This has probably been his breakthrough season for his career kind of thing. And he's been brilliant this season. And for me, people are going to be like, oh, Phil Foden on the right. What are you doing, Statman? Let's look at it this way. He's a left-footed player. I know he's played a lot of his football from the left-hand side for Manchester City. People want him to play in the number 10 role. For me, I don't think as much as I rate Phil Foden, I don't think he's impressed enough in the number 10 role. Champions League final. He played that central role. Was he good enough for me? The answer was no. Mason Mount outshined him that game. He is very unlucky not to be in my starting 11. But for me, there's other players who I want. And you're looking at Phil Foden for England here. If we're looking at the Euro, I think it's a World Cup qualifying campaign. This is his average positions. Is mostly on the right-hand side. So Southgate does see him more of a right-hand-sided player. And when you're left-footed coming inside, you're going to have Reece James overlapping as well. There is no better option than me other than Phil Foden. And I think everyone's looking at it right now. Statman, there's not enough goals in this team behind Harry Kane. I think that's why my main option from that right-hand side would have been someone like Mason Greenwood. I would have loved Mason Greenwood to be fully fit for this tournament because for me, he would have started on the right-hand side just because you want goals. And I think people are going to be like, if you want goals, start someone like Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling has not been firing. International football, international tournaments, he has been very, very poor. And he's been poor coming off good seasons in the past. And now he's coming off a bit of a sticky patch towards the end of the City season. And you really want him starting for international football or in a Euros campaign. Massive mistake for me. And I think if you're looking at it, even we're going to have someone like Raheem Sterling, a Bukayo Saka, a Marcus Rashford off the bench to stretch defenders. It's going to be brilliant. And let's just end it off. The main man himself, England's main guy, Harry Kane. There's no other person that starts up front other than Harry Kane. You could see Harry Kane stats at the bottom, and people are going to say straight away with your team, Statman, we haven't got enough runners in behind. Ian Wright the other day Ian Wright and Roy Keane, to be fair, both said it in the Austria game. There's not enough runners in behind. And I do agree with that to an extent because Harry Kane wants to come deep for the ball. Jayden Sancho, as much as people think Jayden Sancho has the pace to get in behind, you watch most of his game. It's coming towards the play, coming towards the ball, gets the ball and takes people on. As I said, 7.17 dribbles per 90, which is incredible. I'll say that again because that's my guy. That's my number 7 now, hopefully. I said that last year and it didn't end well. But yeah, Jack Grealish as well. He wants the ball to feet. Phil Foden, he wants the ball to feet. And that's the main problem. If Harry Kane can occupy the centre-backs and have goal-orientated movement instead of coming deep for the ball, then this front four will work. But I think if Harry Kane plays a role that he does for Spurs, then is a bit of a sticky situation with the starting 11. Because the thing is, even when he does it for Spurs, it's fine because he has Heung-min Son running off him, Steven Bergwijn running off him, Lucas Moura running off him. And in England, with my starting 11, Sancho, Foden, and Grealish are not going to do that for you, which is the big risk. But I think if Harry Kane occupies the centre-backs and has goal-orientated movement, then it's fine for me. And that front four will work. And Harry Kane will be feasting. We see it. Look, he's averaging 3.91 shots per 90 for Tottenham. This is a Tottenham side that had Jose Mourinho and Ryan Mason for most of the season, who's a defensive manager. Ryan Mason, I don't know what you can call Ryan Mason. He's just there, hologram. But that's what he is. And Harry Kane is having that many shots. And now you're going to have Phil Foden creating for you. Jayden Sancho creating for you. Jack Grealish creating for you. You're going to feast if you stay up top. You're going to get your goals. You're going to win the golden boot or depending on how far England get. You could win the Golden Boot again, like he did in the World Cup. So for me, you have to have that front four only if Harry Kane occupies the centre backs. And I think people are going to say, do you think Harry Kane will do that? The answer is no, because Southgate is manager. But if I was manager, or if there was a more competent manager than someone like Gareth Southgate, that front four will work, in my opinion. And people always put this emphasis on runners in behind. International football is a lot slower. This is what people need to remember. International football is a lot slower than normal Premier League football. It's going to be more on football technical ability, more ball security, more technical security. And you're looking at that team right now, looking at my team. Jude Bellingham, he's very, very good on the ball. Declan Rice, he's decent on the ball. Grealish, Sancho, Foden speak for themselves. All these players are very technically secure, and that's what you really want in international football. And for me, like, don't get me wrong, Sterling, technically, he's decent. You have to be decent if you're playing for Pep Guardiola. But Rashford, technically, that's people criticize him to an extent because he lacks that technical ability compared to someone like a Sancho. So for me, this is my England 11. And where do I think England will finish in the Euros? Not very far. That's all my answer. I think Gareth Southgate, let's be honest, most of his, if we're looking at Gareth Southgate starting 11, it's going to be Jordan Pickford, Kyle Walker, if Harry Maguire's fit, playing right back, Maguire, Stones, Ben Chilwell, because I think he likes Ben Chilwell a bit more. He's probably going to go with a Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips pivot if Jordan Henderson is not fully fit. Then Mason Mount on front. Jack Grealish for me has to be undroppable. I think the other day Roy Keane said he had that Ronaldo style impact on that England side. And I think when people like Roy Keane are saying that, you cannot drop him. And I think there's so much pressure now to play Jack Grealish because ITV have really gassed him, rightly so, to another level. So Southgate has to play him. And I think, let's be honest, Southgate is a bit of a coward. You saw it with the Trent thing. He took 4 right backs. The only reason he took Trent was because of media pressure. And I think he will play Jack Grealish. I think on the right, he probably plays Marcus Rashford, which I don't think he should do. As I always say, I'm not Rashford's biggest fan on the right, but I think Rashford, like, in the nicest possible way, the MBE, all the stuff that he's done off the pitch, there's a lot of pressure for me to start him if you're manager, just because he's England's guy kind of thing. He's England's main football. Like, if you're a non-footballing fan, you know who Marcus Rashford is. He brings in a mad audience because of what he's done, rightly so. That's why I think it'll be Rashford on the right, and I think obviously Harry Kane up top. England in the Euros, I don't think. I think they're getting past the quarterfinal stage. I think if they finish top of the group, I think they get someone in Group F, the group of death with Germany, France, and Portugal. And I do think England will finish top of the group because I do think in a group stage game, they will probably beat Croatia. Well, you never know with England, actually. But I'm guessing they will. So, yeah, I don't think they'll get past the round of 16. Do I want to be surprised? I'll be honest, I couldn't care less. Let's get Jayden Sancho home. Let's get his medical done. Let's get him the number 7 shirt at Manchester United because that's the main priority for me. But, yeah, that's my first YouTube video done. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments what you want to see in this channel, and tell me what your England starting 11 will be. Am I being harsh for not starting Mason Mount? Should I start Kyle Walker for a bit more experience? Jude Bellingham, is it one tournament too soon for him? But thank you very much. It's Statman Bains.